So I don't know how old you guys are, the people who are watching this, but if you're around my age or older, you might remember this company called Blackwater. I use company loosely here. What they really are is a private mercenary army. And what happened was during the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, the U.S. government contracted out to these people for various security services involving our army. So in other words, you had the U.S. military in the Middle East, but you also had these much higher paid private mercenary military members. Now, the other problem with Blackwater, the rules didn't really apply to them, right? And come to find out, this guy, Eric Prince, and the entire Blackwater organization, they are Christian fundamentalist extremists. So, I mean, that brew right there is a horrible, horrible mix. You have the Middle East, Muslim holy lands, and you have a Christian fundamentalist private mercenary army that the rules don't apply to them, and they're there because of the war on terror and that they're being funded by U.S. taxpayers. So I'm going to highly recommend to you, there's a book written by Jeremy Scahill, the phenomenal reporter for The Intercept. He wrote a book called Blackwater. Go read that book if you want to know more about them. Basically, they're just as extremist as you imagine them to be. There's endless stories of them massacring civilians and getting away with it, right? And he details one particular massacre that they were involved with. Well, this guy, Eric Prince, who's the head of Blackwater, he's been floating around for a while now, close to the positions of power. I think he's actually related to Betsy DeVos, who was the education secretary. Remember, Betsy DeVos, billionaire, right? So very rich, powerful Christian fundamentalist family, close to power centers. And one of the things he did, after the height of the Iraq War and all the scandals that his company was caught up in, he changed the name. In fact, I think he changed it a number of times. Why? Just to try to avoid the bad press. Shake off all the, the skeletons in the closet and let's move on here. And by the way, this is a guy who advised Trump on a number of things. And my guess is Trump gets back in there. I'm sure he wants to be the one who's running everything foreign policy wise. Terrifying thought. In the same way that Trump took $100 million from Sheldon Adelson on two separate occasions. And then, would you look at that? He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. And he did the Abraham Accords, which is a giant middle finger to Palestinians, which helped lead to the October 7th attacks. It's a way to normalize relations between Israel and other Arab nations while saying F you to Palestinians. How'd that work out? Okay, that guy controlled Trump's foreign policy. Sheldon Adelson, he did. Now you're going to have people like Eric Prince back close to positions of power and authority if Trump gets reelected again. And this is not to say anything good about Biden, but this guy is more immersed in Republican politics. So he did an interview recently, this Eric Prince guy, and he really, really said the quiet part out loud. This is astonishing, guys, but you need to see this because you need to understand this is how these wealthy, powerful elites think. This is what they think, and this is how they act. Okay, listen to this.
Then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually
hold on a second. Hold on. People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes.
He says we should put the imperial hat back on, and he says, yes, I'm in favor of colonialism. In his own words, he believes in imperialism and colonialism. And he says, basically, we should govern all of Africa. And he also, I think, is referring to South America as well. This is psychotic. And it's people like this who are tremendously powerful. He has his own private army. His own private army where the rules and laws of war don't apply to them. I'm going to play it for you one more time so you could really soak in just how extremist this is. Now, also remember, this guy's a Christian fundamentalist as well.
Then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually
hold on
making
a
their
second.
country.
He's going after looting and pillaging and saying, oh, they're all corrupt. They can't run. You are Eric Prince. Your whole thing was looting and pillaging and going into foreign countries and killing innocent civilians and getting away with it. You are the corrupt goon that you're going after. But he's referring to South America and Africa. You know how those people are, how those regions are. They can't govern themselves. Gee, I wonder, what's the difference between the U.S. and Africa? What's the difference between the U.S. and South America? Really, really hard to figure out.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Guys, I need you to understand something. This is how every single empire throughout history has acted. The idea is we are the good guys just by virtue of the fact that we're us. We mean well. We have the best values. We're going to spread them at the barrel of a gun. And, oh yeah, we also get the benefits of running shit, right? So we get to exploit the wealth and the natural resources. We're the boss man. This is what this guy's saying. When we do bad things, it's okay. It doesn't count. It's actually good things because we're us. And so this is how you get a guy who's a Christian fundamentalist who has a private army who goes into Iraq, guns down innocent civilians, and largely gets away with it. He gets away with it. This guy has a military, and he's bragging about, well, what we should do is really go further. Okay, between this video that you just saw and what's currently going on in Gaza, here's my question for you. Have we evolved at all since the bad old days? Have we evolved at all? Look, we were all led to believe that with, the Geneva Convention and the Nuremberg Tribunal and international law and the United Nations and all these various human rights groups around the world, whether it be Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch or whatever, we're led to believe, yes, there was a time where everything was lawless. Internationally, it was like the wild, wild west. Rules didn't apply to anybody, and you had might makes right going on. But then we got to a point where we realized, particularly after World War II, hey, man, we've been a bunch of psychos, and we got to get it together, and we need to start this rules-based international order. But I ask you now, have we actually evolved at all since then? Have we actually evolved at all? Joe Biden is arming and funding a literal genocide in Gaza, where 30,000 innocent civilians have been killed in a very short time span. Hospitals bombed, schools, mosques, open-air markets, factories, houses. 70,000 houses have been bombed. They bomb UN buildings and say, I don't know, we're just going to say they're Hamas. They kill 6-year-olds and 15-year-olds and act like, no, we had to do it, they're Hamas. If you mix what's going on in Gaza with the fact that this guy is the biggest private military contractor in the United States, and he had played a major role in the war in Iraq and the war on terror, and he's out there going, yay imperialism, yay colonialism. My question for you is, have we advanced even a little bit? Because I'm starting to believe the answer to that is no. There's been zero advancement. We are right back where pick a year. 1792, right? Morally and ethically, we are stuck in a primitive age. And if anything now, it's ramping up in the wrong direction, where the people who are most unethical and most immoral and most corrupt, they're the loudest voices in the room. And they're the ones who are controlling the direction that we're going. This should absolutely terrify you. Now, by the way, the final point I'm going to make is, just imagine this guy wasn't American, right? Just imagine he wasn't a Christian fundamentalist, private mercenary army guy who works for the U.S. government. Imagine this is, I don't know, one of the Shia militias that is armed and funded by the Iranian government. And, they come out here and say something like that, and they have the power to back up their words, right? Let's say Iran was the most powerful country in the world, and they had their own private mercenary Shia Islamist fundamentalist paramilitary. If the head of an organization like that came out and said the exact same thing this guy's saying, oh, we believe in Shia Islamist fundamentalism and imperialism and colonialism. I think we need to govern the countries that can't govern themselves. We need to bring the light of Allah to them. How would we react? That would be like the prototypical evil villain in a movie, right? Like, that's the bad guy giving the speech. Hey, we need to control anything and everything and everyone because we're the good guys. And we mean well, and we have the right values, and they can't govern themselves. They're all, I love the idea, they're all corrupt, as he's one of the most corrupt guys on the planet, right? They're all so corrupt. Not me, though. It's like beyond villainous. It's the most naked, disgusting thing I've ever seen. And by the way, Trump looks at this guy and he's like, that's my kind of guy right there. Trump loves this guy. God help us all, man. God help us all. Because, with what's happening in Gaza and videos like this, I do feel like we're going in the wrong direction. And that's a terrifying thing to think about.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.